Hey guys, this is Slater, and this is going to be my portion of the Westboro Baptist Church project. Um, this is going to be an informative report, basically explaining what the movement is, everything about like who started, the early history from where it is now to maybe comparing it to something else. So I added this little summary here because if you kind of look at a book or if you read like any popular book, sometimes they'll have something dedicated or they just like have like a little summary or something. I just put this here basically because I'm gonna tell it in a like I'm gonna compare it to a lot of things, and it's kind of the way of a story that I'm gonna be telling it. So I'm just gonna read just from the slide. This is an investigative project that was sparked by the course Hume 115, to take an approach and look into the history of mass movements, starting with the glimpse into the history of Jonestown. This project's purpose is to inform and educate on some of the minor as well as other major mass movements that have happened in America. And without further ado, we're going to talk about what the Westboro Baptist Church is. So, this was a church that was founded in 1934, and the Westboro Baptist Church was actually a branch off of a church called the East Side Church, and it was located in Topeka, which is in Kansas. And, well, as you know from the news and stuff, this church is known for its inflammatory hate speech. Like, they are just out there and about, like, they don't care. Like, they're kind of very outspoken, and they justify it in many ways in correlation with religion, which, I mean, me coming from a non-religious background, I can just look at it and just tell, like, they're taking one message and changing it into something else. And these are some of the characteristics that make up a cult. Actually, they've been compared a lot to a cult, but they're still considered a church, quote unquote. The main guy who started us off was a man named Fred Phelps. He was the pastor for the Eastside Baptist Church, and then eventually became the senior pastor. And eventually, he decided to end the connection and separate his church from that church and taking it into his own direction. Now, the church is, like I said, is very outspoken, and they just had this big agenda against homosexuals. In fact, if you've probably seen any pictures, which I will show you later in the slide, you'll recognize the pictures because this group is usually the ones promoting this type of hate speech and imagery. Diving into the website, the members in the church itself describe themselves as super religious, as they think they're directly following God's orders, and they follow the Calvinist theology as well. Calvinist theology of predestination. So they believe that any disaster, anything that's out of their control, so like for putting it to maybe a smaller example, your car's going down the road, blows a tire, or the engine stops. They believe if that happens, it's God's work. Like that is meant to happen, regardless of any other factors. It was God's will. So they're a big believer in God's will. So, recapping to what I said about how they have hate speech towards homosexuals, I actually have a link here, because these are the people that will sit outside any kind of rally, any kind of school, any kind of funeral as well, to just promote their speech. It depends. Like it's not always towards homosexuals. They have different kinds of agendas, and I didn't really know how to describe it. So this is why I kind of linked it here, and I'm about to pull up in a second because they always find a way of justifying whatever they say by using. From what I was reading, they use Bible passages as well as they kind of twisted the words around and trying to make it into something that is, oh yeah, it's okay for us to do this, but being outside of that group, because being outside of their church, it just comes off as ignorant and it just comes off as what the heck are they doing? So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this link. It's going to open up right here. So if you take a look, they have it all organized. They're promoting their website right here. God Hates Fags. They have the date. And this is for one that was yesterday. I tried to find one that was going to be in the future, but it wouldn't load up for me, so I chose to choose one in the past. And see, if you look through, if you don't remember earlier this week, Stan Lee died, and right here they talk about like his legacy. They talk about his legacy, and they use all these quotes saying like the stuff he gains now is not going to be like relevant later in life when he gets to heaven or whatever. And see, this little passage wasn't too bad. But if you go down here, if you look at the at this passage, you see they're slandering him for being a gay Christian, and he's being, in the Republican Party. And see, they just back it all up with just a whole bunch of quotes that could be taken either way, because the Bible is open to interpretation, but there comes to a point where you could be interpreting in a completely wrong format, like in a completely different way than it is intended. Because personally, if you ask me, the Bible is just, it's kind of a guideline to life. It's kind of like, here's how you be a good person, or here's how you be a moral citizen. Just don't take it straight to heart. You can live by it to the heart, but I can't really speak on that. I'm just going to leave that right there. Anyways, back to the PowerPoint. But yeah, and I remember, I couldn't find the other flyer, but when I looked at this a few days ago, they had a flyer where they were going to picket right outside of a high school, because there was a student who got sent home on something about being attacked in a bathroom full of guys. Something crazy, something like really out of pocket, just really out there. Yeah, they find a way to just ease their way in and become relevant. So here's the picture of Fred Phelps in the top left. That's him. Just, looking at him, he looks like my grandpa, honestly. But he believes that he really is preaching a message towards people. It's really, again, it's just all over the place. And if you look to the right here, if you notice, there's a guy holding the "God hates America, God hates fags." They even slander military. They often picket funerals of dead soldiers, and that's just completely disrespectful. And also, there's a kid in that picture as well, which is, if you're a kid being raised in a family like that, you're going to end up believing it only because that's what you grew up on. You can learn right from wrong, but it's just like, again, with religion. Like, when you're 3 or 5 years old, your parents have been taking you to church all your life. You grew up believing that's it's just your norm, And I remember personally when I first heard about the Westboro Baptist Church, they were picketing some kind of funeral or something like that, and I just thought, wow, that's crazy. But now, I don't think the media really covers them too much anymore, only because, one, they don't want to give them the publicity, which is strange because in our society today, publicity and just how media is nowadays, we just capture everything. 2, I also kind of sort of think as the years go on, we kind of become desensitized to this. So it sucks that this has integrated into our society as a norm, yet we don't really do anything about it. It's kind of a society issue. Oh, and I forgot to mention the little picture in the bottom left. That's also that's the First Church, and they've also, like, in the church, they've been accused of brainwashing as well, because, again, they're being labeled as a cult. Personally, I think it's a cult, a crazy, super Calvinistic theology kind of cult, trying to promote a good message, but I believe it's just all about the false prophet and everything. Okay, so I'm gonna just compare this guy really quick. If you notice to the right, there's a very famous figure everyone knows if you've had any kind of history in high school, middle school even. That's Adolf Hitler. The man on top of him is who we talked about earlier this semester, Jim Jones. Now, let me compare Fred Phelps to Jim Jones really quick. They both start off a church, and I feel as if they start off these churches only because it's something small. Like anyone can start the church, and if you are able to talk to people and be able to preach a message that may seem good at first, and then take advantage of people's loyalty and belief, you can turn into something big. So Fred Phelps and Jim Jones are really similar only for that reason, because they start off small, they eventually become into something bigger. Like, for example, Jim Jones, if you remember, he had about approximately 900 people kill themselves. Some were forced. So I shouldn't say that. I should say a big population of people ended up dying for his cause, for his belief. And you see, on the contrary to Fred Phelps, I can't really think from the research, and I can't really think of any times in the news, but I don't think anyone's really died from his cause. But the way that they're putting out their message, which is very provocative, I feel as if they're true believers, which is a true believer is someone who's a martyr for the cause. So I believe that regardless of what happens, they believe that they're really pushing their message forward. And that I can also add in comparison to Adolf. Now, this is a much bigger, large-scale comparison, but they are very similar in a way. And I only say that is because of how they talk. I listened to a sermon by Fred Phelps. To me, it was just garbled garbage. Like, I mean, he was putting like select words and a select tone behind his message in order to appeal to like the Christian followers, but in reality, it was just a whole bunch of racial slandering. Now, this is going to be kind of hard for y'all to understand, but Adolf Hitler, he if you ever watch a speech of his, there's a few speeches you can find on YouTube. I should have linked one on here, but the way he talks is similar to how Fred Phelps talks. They start off kind of quiet, kind of a medium tone, use a few select words, but for his large scale, it was different only because he was just talking quiet, so people would lean in to listen. And eventually, once he got people listening, he got people riled up. So, just the same as how Fred Phelps got his followers riled up. You just have to take a look and listen to one of his clips. But all these false leaders, prophets, they all kind of follow the same path. They start off with a small goal. They get a little collective, a few people, and it kind of spreads. It kind of like trickles down, like a pyramid scheme in a way. There's someone at the top, trickles down, gets other followers, and it just gets bigger. And unfortunately for Fred Phelps, his cause, like, it might have died down now. Didn't really give an approximation of how many members there are from when I looked it up. But understand that, like, it's an underlying problem. Like, I was reading some of the other projects today and listening to some of the other projects, and there's so many movements out there and groups that some are just in plain sight, some are just like lying in the shadows, and you really don't know what's out there. And this is how I'm going to conclude my part of the project. And I just want y'all to think about if there's any mass movements out there that really should be brought into light and how they could be stopped.